on the home stretch of the show. We're taking a look at that executive order and trying to figure out whether or not it has any real legal implications as far as it is concerned. And joining me is Steve Ogola, who's going to give us the legal perspective of it all. Steve, welcome to the show. First of all, I would like us to just explain what is this about and why is it bringing about a lot of interest? Is it because of speculation between on the relationship, political relationship between the president and the DP, or are there any real legal implications?
I think it tricks. The executive order has the implication of undermining the functional independence of the office of the deputy president.
How so?
And it also has political ramification of cutting the deputy president to size. But let me deal with the law first.
Yes.
If you look at Article 147 of the Constitution, the Constitution designates the office of the deputy president as the principal assistant to the president.
Yes.
Performing functions that may be assigned to him by the president, acting as president while the president is away, and also capable of assuming the office of the presidency in case the president is incapacitated or sudden death.
For sure.
So in that context, you can see that the president merely assigns the deputy president tasks to perform, but the Constitution is also deliberate in designating the office of the deputy president as a distinct and separate office from the office of the presidency.
Okay. So what does this do?
That is why within the meaning of Article 148 of the Constitution, the office of the deputy president is elected separately together with the president at the ballot.
Absolutely.
The second hint is that if you look at Article 130 of the Constitution, the Constitution frames what it calls the national executive, which constitutes of the president, the deputy president, and the cabinet. The national executive is not the same thing as the executive office of the president. So if the executive order had read the national executive, borrowing the language which is already used in the Constitution, then there would not be a legal question arising.
Okay.
Because within the meaning of Article 130 of the Constitution, the national executive, as I've already indicated, constitutes of the president, the deputy president, and the institutions under the presidency, such as the cabinet.
Now, when you talk about...
But the law does not anticipate that,
When you talk about that, there are those that argue that the office of the deputy president has been a department under the office of the president. So the DP has not lost anything that he had before. Do you argue that that is not factual as far as this is concerned?
The office of the deputy president is not a department in the office of the presidency. So let's clarify that.
Yes.
The office of the deputy presidency is a distinct and separate office. But performing functions assigned to it by the presidency. What that means is that the Constitution anticipates what you may consider as collaborative greatness. That the president and the deputy president will work together in harmony in advancing the national interest for which they were given the mandate at the ballot to perform. But if you look at the overall design of the Constitution is already deliberate that all offices in the Constitution, under the Constitution, should have some level of distinctiveness and independence. So when you collapse the office of the deputy president under the office of the presidency, you confuse and conflate the constitutional arrangement of functions of institutional independence, and then you undermine gradually the ability of these offices to operate independently.
Yes.
In terms of performing functions already assigned. You know, you assign functions,
right,
and then you allow decisional independence to the deputy president to perform them.
Yes, as we talk
but
about,
more importantly,
sorry to cut you short.
There's going to be
as we talk about independence, in what light would this be? Just break it down as what are some of the independent
yes,
roles that they would be able to carry out before that might not be possible right now?
So now, when in terms of animating independence,
yes,
of the office of the deputy presidency, while preserving the collaborative greatness,
for sure,
what it means is that in terms of budgetary allocation, to perform the functions the president has allocated to the deputy president, that budget should be allocated separately, and the deputy president should have control
and say,
over
yes,
the implementation of those functions. But as it is now, if you collapse the office of the deputy president to be a department within the office of the presidency, just like the cabinet, it means that the head of civil service can decide in terms of, and treasury, in terms of budgetary allocation, to starve that office of resources. Then you have functions that you cannot perform.
Okay. Right.
And now that is not advancing the overall intention of the Constitution of making sure that although there's that collaborative greatness,
yes,
part of that collaboration means the functions that you have designated or assigned the deputy president, he should be able to have some decisional independence,
yes,
and functional autonomy.
What about when
performing those functions?
The issues of hiring?
Now that has been taken away.
Yeah. What about the issue of hiring persons under that office? Do you think this has been affected as well?
Going forward, the deputy president cannot hire staff. And if he hires staff, within the context of these executive orders, he hires staff with the permission of the office of the president.
Okay.
So which means the deputy president's operational and logistical, operational and administrative needs will have to depend on the goodwill and support of the president.
Yes.
Which is what we are saying, that is not what the Constitution anticipated. If you wanted an errand boy, the Constitution would then permit you to appoint the deputy president after your election.
For sure. Now,
remember,
yes,
even other offices, yes.
Now, moving forward.
Remember, I was going to give you another example.
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
Yes. You know, remember there are other constitutional office holders, such as the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, that the president has a direct say in their appointment because they are nominated by the president, confirmed by parliament, then appointed by the president. Even those constitutional offices where the president has a direct say in appointment, the Constitution still designates them as independent offices with a separate budget. You understand?
Yes, yes.
So if the president cannot control the office of the ODPP, for instance, yet he nominates and appoints, why should he control the office of the deputy president, which he does not nominate, and which the Constitution already designates as a separate and distinct constitutional office?
Right.
So you can see there's some legitimate concern,
yes,
that this executive order will work to undermine the functional and institutional independence of the office of the deputy president. That observation cannot be dismissed.
Okay, and therefore this coming to the attention of many and having people talking about it quite adversely. And the way you explain it, and given recent political events that have taken place in the country, would you call it, would I be wrong in referring to it as a form of political arm twisting? If you play ball, then you'll get what you need. If you don't, then you might not have a very comfortable time in office.
I think so. You see, in terms of political interpretation, the more urgent question of political relevance is the president defunding and defying the deputy president? The answer is yes. You know, if you want to kill a dog, you give it a bad name. You delegitimize his office, you defund his office, then you can defang it. So this is a political scheme to cut the deputy president to size.
Okay.
Whether there's a good reason for it or not, that is for the political elite to decide.
For sure.
But you can see that there's a deliberate maneuver to control the influence of the deputy president. Maybe the office of the president already made a determination that the budget allocated to the deputy president is what he may be using to strengthen his bid for ahead of 2022.
Yes.
Under the guise of launching development projects. So if you starve him of resources, the deputy president will have to dig into his own personal resources to continue visiting the counties.
Okay.
Ostensibly to perform functions of the national government, while also deepening his own personal political agenda.
Right.
So as a political question, it is possible to say that the president's decision is intended to cut the deputy president to size.
Yeah. And so when...
And the way to do so is to bring his office under your control and deny him funds.
Okay, so
you confine him to his desk. And if he must leave his desk, he must do so at his own cost.
Right. And so when you look at the Big Four agenda and all BBI and all the plans that the presidency has, do you feel that this would go a long way in stemming, you know, all the factions and the you know, infighting between what is supposed to be one vote? Do you think this would work?
Yes, in terms of political clarity, the president has done a good job. Now, politically, I've said, for clarity, I've said, that moves undermines the Constitution's intention of strengthening offices created by the Constitution.
Right.
But as a political maneuver, the president succeeds in the sense that he's able to drive the Big Four agenda.
Right.
He's able to limit disruption within his government because he has brought his deputy under his watch.
Right.
And the way to watch the deputy president is to limit the functions he's performing and to limit resources that flows to his office and to limit the capacity, the personnel and the administrative capacity of that office to function properly.
Yes.
So it means that you have a deputy president that effectively is unable to perform any function, but also in terms of political realignment, because all of us understand that the deputy president is also a man of means, and he has the necessary political infrastructure to innovate within the challenges. So although the president has done what he can do within the law to limit the influence of the deputy president,
for sure,
the deputy president default position going forward will now mean that he will have to dig into his personal resources to continue advancing his political agenda.
All right. Now, what does this also...
So I don't know whether the president will really be able to constrain that aspect. Sorry.
Yes, because there's a level of self, you know, his own agenda that he can carry out, probably out of pocket or whatever other means he might choose to do. So, and what does this also imply, this executive order for the Nairobi Metropolitan Service? Could you explain to the people watching at home what indications it had for that? You see, it brings the Nairobi Metropolitan Service under the firm grip of the Executive Office of the President. Now, in terms of the arrangement of transfer functions that was signed by the Nairobi County and the national government, that would seem, at the face of it, prima facie, constitutional. But there is what is ordained by the Constitution, but there's also what the Constitution intends to achieve. So, the realignment that is brought by this executive order in relation to Nairobi County does not necessarily offend the Constitution. Right.
But I can tell you, Trix, in the longer term, it will work to undermine devolution and especially the functional independence of Nairobi County.
Okay.
You see, basically, it means that the office of the president has a direct and great control over the affairs of the Nairobi County. So that's not necessarily a good thing. You know, when you transfer function, it should be for an interim period. It cannot be a complete and total takeover. And we already raised constitutional questions around the takeover of Nairobi County by the national government.
Yes, absolutely.
So this executive order only deepens that philosophy.
Thank you very much. Steve Ogolla is a lawyer trying to bring us clarity on that executive order that was issued yesterday. And remember, you can be a part of the conversation by answering the question we are asking you today. We have some of your responses that I'll be going through as we go along with the show. But for now, let's take a look at what's happening